And this one right here is, of course, you can tell, ZZZ. This is the sleep honey. This is to help people fall asleep. If you want to have a nice chill time and then have them go back home and go get snuggle in bed, this is the honey for you. Oh, hello. You must be our 2 o'clock. Are you Winnie the Pooh? Yes, you are. Okay, perfect. Come in, have a seat. Is your significant other with you? Okay, it's just you. Okay, wonderful. We can talk. So your wedding planner, your banquet planner definitely called me. I think her name was Rabbit. And, she was a whole big mess. A lot of yelling on the phone. We almost canceled the appointment because of her. But honestly, we thought, since we know you've been to our honey store numerous times, Mr. Winnie, I think that we wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm assuming that's why you're here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so from what I understand, you have your banquet to celebrate both you and Piglet getting together and getting married. Now, that's wonderful. I always thought you and Piglet were a great pair for each other. The manifestation of gluttony with the manifestation of anxiety really is just a wonderful matrimony. So, I know that Piglet doesn't really have great decision-making skills, and you want honey. So you, of course, have come to the right store. We are the honey store. We make everything that you might need when it comes to honey. Now, of course, I know who you are, but we're going to need to take a little bit of information just so that we know, in terms of this banquet, what we're really in for, okay? So I don't really need to ask for your name. You are, in fact, Winnie the Pooh. Wonderful last name also. Okay, and what size is this event going to be? Okay, so you're thinking about everybody in the Grove and, Christopher Robin, of course, okay, so a total of 200 people. Okay, that's doable for us. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. We have dealt with so many banquets. Everybody wants honey these days. Okay. And what time is your event going to take place? That's date and time. Okay. So that is there. Oh, that's a wonderful. With the sunset, it's gonna gleam. The light's gonna gleam and gleam right off the honey. It's gonna look. Oh, you made your rings out of honey? Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my god! And why didn't you come to us? Oh, of course we make banquet rings, wedding rings for, made out of honey. What do you think we are? Any honey store would be able to do it, but we do it the best. Okay, well, regardless, no use being upset over that. And so it's you and Piglet, and how many people? We know how many people are going to be there. How many do you think you're going to want to eat? You have the really, the people who really are into the keto diet, the people that are really into the paleo diet, the people that are really into the vegan diet, any sort of diet. We can accommodate, of course, in terms of dietary restrictions. However, sometimes people decide to just eat beforehand and just come and not eat. So in terms of your RSVP, how many have put in that they'll plan on eating, but they're going to show up? Okay, yeah, that's a decent amount actually. That's good to know. Okay. Perfect. So with that, let's just look at our options. So I selected a handful of options for you. Some a little bit more conventional, of course, and some a bit more out there, I would say. But really go with your gut here, Winnie. You are pretty much an expert on honey. So we wanted to surprise you. You know, we wanted to give you a few things that maybe you haven't heard of before. Um, and you know, if you have to go take a break outside, you know, take a nap over it, or maybe even like talk to Piglet, see what he thinks. I know he's not going to be any help, but if you want to like bounce off ideas with him, then perhaps you can totally do that. And you know, we'll be back. We'll be here, ready for you whenever you are ready. Okay. So we have our beautiful selection here. And now I've organized them into handy icons. And the reason why I did that is because when we end up bringing the honey and serving the honey, all of our materials, all of our cups, our glasses, our bowls, our plates, our silverware are all going to have the icon of the honey that we are serving. That's mainly promotional purposes. You get it, of course, Winnie. Like, you're the biggest entrepreneur there is. I mean, come on. Christopher Robin is your shareholder, and you are an entrepreneur. So you get it. So let's just start off with some classics, right? We've got this over here. This is the wildflower honey. Very simple, very easy. The bees sort of go around. Every hive is going to be a little bit different. The one that we have here in the grove ends up being fairly sweet with a bit of an herby taste, to be honest. We don't have too many flowers here in the grove. I think it's because we have a lot of animals that somehow represent the seven deadly sins. But otherwise, it ends up tasting a bit herby. It has a little bit of a bitter taste. Bitter in terms of like how sweet honey can be. You know, like the scale of bitter to sweet for honey is like sweet to mega sweet. So you get it. You get it. If you wanted a more complicated palate, perhaps. The next over here this is the icon for the manuka tree. It is the manuka honey. And this is, now I don't know about you. I don't know if you've hit it big with the entrepreneur business yet, Mr. Winnie the Pooh. But I'm fairly certain that I don't think that you don't have the manuka honey money. You know, manuka honey is like, it's really expensive. You know, it's in this far off magical land called Australia. They have these things called a manuka tree. During a few weeks in summer, they end up going in. They end up, you know, extracting from that tree, and they do some sort of process. I'm just a salesman, but with that, they end up getting manuka honey. It's very, very sweet and is filled with a lot of different vitamins. It's very healthy, or at least that's sort of the claim that manuka honey tends to have. But the biggest thing is that it's very, very, very expensive, you know, and I don't know if you can afford it. But if you can, then I would definitely recommend the manuka honey. But, you know, some of the other ones provide the sort of elite top, you know, incredibly wealthy experience, but on a lower budget, you know. So next we have buckwheat, or any type of flour. Flour honey is very, very common. You know, it's really what you make like honey bread out of, you know, and to be honest, it's a little boring. You know, if you want buckwheat honey, you're not going to come to us for buckwheat honey. No. Buckwheat honey is something that we have for the people that aren't you, Winnie the Pooh. You're a connoisseur. So let's just move on from this one and go to bear honey. Now, this might surprise you. I know that you're aware of bear honey. I'm giving it as an option, mainly as a joke, right? Because this isn't bears like you, Mr. Winnie the Pooh. This is bears like hairy, muscular men, right? So the bees, what they end up doing is they surround and really take in the endorphins of bears in like sort of bear parties, you know, when they have those like exclusive little parties that they tend to have, you know, when they're out on the pool wearing Speedos and whatnot. what ends up happening is the bees sort of really get drunk on those endorphins and end up creating their own special kind of honey. But and I know it's really messed up with your SEO, and that's really something that you as an entrepreneur, I'm sure, are really annoyed by. But it's good. It's actually really good, you know. So if you really want bear honey, I would definitely recommend it, especially if, you know, I know that it's you and Piglet, and you know you may be a bear, but Piglet isn't exactly a bear. So depending on who he brings to the party, this might not be the perfect option, but I'd still recommend it. Next we have, I put in here, this is the poisoned honey. See, it's like a little dagger. And the reason why I included this is so that if say you wanted to have a moment where you invited all of your greatest villains and enemies to your banquet, serve them the poisoned honey, and have them die before you, we support that, you know, and we definitely are able to do that. It just costs a little bit extra, not as much as the Manuka honey. The Manuka honey is premium. The next thing is going to be gamer honey. Now, gamer honey is sort of like with the bear. The gamer honey ends up being bees that are either trapped, or you know, they form hives within gamer caves, within places where to be honest, they probably shouldn't be. Gamer honey tends to form when the bees really get entrenched within that, like really near the most vile, the most terrible people that never bathe, never shower, are always gaming, the most toxic of people. They end up creating this like mist, this musk, right, that like is all over. And what's really interesting about it is that it adds just a little bit of twang to the honey, right? It's just a little bit of twang. And honestly, if you really think about it, Mr. Winnie the Pooh, I think that this honey was created to give toxic gamer bros a reason why they might exist, right? If they can create or help create gamer honey, then they have a reason to exist within society. And isn't that brilliant, right? Isn't that nice? So moving on, we of course have just the standard honeycomb. This is a honeycomb. You can put any type of honey in there, but it'll add a little bit of crunch, a little bit of texture. And this is just sort of an additional option in case you wanted to have that. Next, we have this. This is a child's rendition of a tree. And what that means is that the honey is really infused with child's imagination, like a children's imagination. Oh yes, of course. We make all of these honeys ourselves. We do have you know, the bear parties, the toxic gamer bros, and we do have children in the back that are constantly being tasked to really drive up their imagination. Oh yes, of course. So I can guarantee to their quality, but I'm just explaining the general, like how each one came to be so that you can kind of understand Mr. Winnie the Pooh. So if you really wanted sort of a child's imagination, if you wanted, and how the honey ends up tasting, I would say for child's imagination is that it ends up tasting a bit like, well, it is sweet, but there's a bit of sadness to it. You know, it's a bit like, it sort of numbs the sweetness. It like sort of counteracts the sweetness because a child is very morphable, right? Their imagination is limitless. And because of that, the sweetness ends up going into that limitless void and just drowning in it. So you're sapping a little bit of the sweetness, but you're injecting this like depth. And what the depth ends up doing is that every person that ends up having this honey ends up having really crazy dreams, and they might have a hard time having conversation. So if you're really, really worried about small talk, this would be really good so that it just cuts out the small talk. People will come up to you, they'll say what they really mean, and they won't stick around if they don't want to. So this is a good one. Next is spicy honey. Fire honey, spicy honey. Very, very good. Crispy and nice. Sort of a classic. You kind of want spicy honey. I don't know. Is Piglet okay with spice? Oh, he's putting a bit of a wimp. Okay, well, we can move on from that one. Here we have the Honey I Shrunk the Kids honey. This one is kind of interesting because I think there was a screening for Honey I Shrunk the Kids, and it had a hive within the screening, and what the honey that ended up coming out of it, it was very bizarre. It lulled everybody into a sense of wonder, while also making them completely reverse in age. So next we have YouTuber honey right here. And the YouTuber honey is pretty interesting because if you wanted any form of honey made by your favorite YouTuber, we have it. They all end up tasting the same because really all the YouTubers end up going through the same manufacturer anyway and just putting a little label on it. So try not to worry too much about the specific person. It ends up being the worst tasting one, but people tend to want the name recognition of it, right? So I think this is a good option if you want to do some YouTuber honey. Except I think there are a few YouTubers that if you wanted, we could create our own special hive within their sort of where they film. And we can't guarantee that the honey will taste very well, but it's a really, really good option. So next we have the moss honey. The mold honey. And the reason why this even exists is because there's a really, really good trend going on right now where mold is actually good for you. And so it has a lot of vitamins, bacteria is forming, and bacteria is really good for the gut, actually. It can really help reset everything. It's very detoxifying. Yeah. Mold honey is incredibly detoxifying. So really what it is, it'll be honey and then it'll be a thick layer of mold right on top. And before we serve it, we'll mix it all in. And so it'll have this nice green color. Green or black, depending on the mold. But this is a really, really good option if you wanted to give everybody a really good way to detoxify and you really wanted to do them a solid, right? So next we have here, this is just bee honey, right? And of course I skipped to this row. We'll get back to it. Then we have bee honey right here. Now bee honey is a little bit interesting because this is made by crushing up the bodies of the bees and putting it in the honey. It just adds a little bit of protein. It's just something that a lot of people that go to the gym end up wanting, right? They want gamer honey. Not gamer honey. They want bee honey. They want that protein. And they've tried to add all of the different like protein powders. It doesn't really mix very well with the honey. So this has been the most natural way. And if you're worried about the bees, don't worry. No bee ends up being hurt in the process. They all die very swiftly. And so like there's no pain involved. So it's very humane and incredibly, I would almost say it's vegetarian. And then next right here, this is a little bit interesting. You might not be able to tell what it looks like, but this is yoga honey. So think of hot yoga, right? This is honey made in a hot yoga room. If you ever wanted the smell and the taste of honey made within a gym, sort of like a really stinky gym, but just with a little bit of snobbery on top, you've got yoga honey. Very, very good. Next we have, this is the laugh track honey. Now, I know it has a little mask. This is the representation of the person that would love a laugh track. So, of course they have sort of, they're smiling because there's a laugh track. You have to smile and laugh. but you can kind of see the deadness within their eyes right there. But yeah, so this is, of course, hives within. I mean, you're getting the picture here now, yeah? Of course. And so let's go over here. We've got book honey, bees and books. Very well read bees, by the way. Very good for intellect. However, I would say they did unionize. And because of that, we do have to pay them more. So this ends up being expensive, about as expensive as the Manuka honey. But don't worry, the Manuka honey is made completely without, completely full of exploitation, rather. So it is still the most expensive, but it would be way more expensive if we paid people fairly. And then, of course, we have sun honey. This is, we took a little extraction from the sun, brought it here to Earth, gave it to a bee. The bee then morphed into not just the queen bee, but the alpha bee, the sigma bee, I would say. And that sigma bee created a whole army and spread all across the Earth. You know this, Mr. Winnie the Pooh. This is something that you are very well versed in. You're a honey connoisseur. So, of course, this is honey made by those bees. The moon honey. Now, the moon honey, you'd think would be very similar to the sun honey, but it's really not. It's kind of a shoddy imitation. It's created by people who really did not like that the sun was getting so much attention, and they really wanted their like best friend, the moon, to get all of the attention, right? So it's really, it's kind of a pyramid scheme, I would say, but we do end up offering it because the owner does end up having, like, I think their second cousin is really into it. So it's just sort of an option we have to present. And then over here, we have these last three right here. This one is coffee honey. If you really wanted people to stay up, you really want them to pay attention at your banquet, this is the honey. This is, of course, the flu shot honey. This is, if you are friends with anti-vaxxers, if you, are inviting sort of friends of family, or, those like really far off family members that don't particularly believe in certain things, I would say that this is a really good option, the flu shot honey, as just a way to be like, hey, I don't want to get sick, and I don't think you do either, so why don't you just take it? And this one right here is, of course, you can tell, ZZZ. This is the sleep honey. This is to help people fall asleep. If you want to have a nice chill time and then have them go back home and get snuggle in bed, this is the honey for you. Now, of course, you see this 1, 2, 3 here, right? These aren't, now we're going to move on to the next portion. We've gone through all of the options here. As you can see, I'm going to need you to pick 3. And I'll have you taste each one individually, and you can choose to mix and match the honeys. So say you like the YouTuber honey and the laugh track honey, then we can create a combo of the two. If you like all 3 of the ones you choose, you can put all 3, or if you only like 1, you can just do 1. So let me grab. Perfect. So what is the first honey you would like? Okay, you'd like to try that? Perfect. What's the second? Mm-hmm. And what's the third? Okay. So, with that, let's get them for you. Okay. So I'm just going to have you taste it. It's just a little bit of tasting. So the first one you're going to try, here you go. Perfect. What does that taste like? Okay, perfect. Okay. Now let's do the second one. Okay. Here's the second one. What do you think of this one? Oh, good. Okay. Now let's put that down. Let's get the other one. And Here is the third one. Ah, you caught me. I gave you all 3 of the poison one. So, I think you want to kill your enemies, don't you? Yeah, I know. It tastes really good. You'll never know. So, oh no, don't worry. That wasn't a lethal dose. You're gonna be fine. Well, all right then. I will have that set up for you, and we'll have it ready for your event. I'll coordinate with Rabbit. Just make sure you tell her that everything's gonna be okay, unless of course she is one of your enemies. Okay. All right then. Bye bye.